Hello, welcome to Dye Job. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Annie Humphreys. Annie revolutionised contemporary colour. Today we're going to talk about early years with Vidal, her approach to colour and how she revolutionised the art of colouring hair, and her mentoring of generations of hair colourists.
I used to also quite influence the cutters as well.
There we go. And also how she influenced the cutters. I'm going to take it back. So what version of you walked in to hairdressing?
At the age of 15. I walked in at the age of 15 knowing absolutely nothing. Absolutely. Being a war baby, you didn't really get exposed to very much. Boys always had the priority, not like nowadays. Then it was sort of, you will learn, but it wasn't essential that you learnt to do everything that you were supposed to do. And the first job I had was in Knightsbridge. The gentleman was Italian, and the salon was called Biagio, very alien to me. And they still had part of the salon with cubicles and part of it open, but most salons then still had cubicles. So it was kind of getting there, but not there. And they said, when my name was Anne, and they said, oh, well, he said to me, yes, I knew you were coming, yes, we know you're coming. But you know what I didn't tell you at your interview was, you can't be Anne anymore. I thought, I can't be Anne anymore. And I just looked at him like, and he said, yes, the manageress is called Anne. And so you have to be called something else. So this is an Italian shop, so you're going to be called Maria. I said, oh, okay, fine, okay.
I can't imagine you, Meek. So you started life as Maria?
Yes. For 18 months, I was Maria.
And when did you become Annie? When were you allowed to bloom?
Not till I left. 18 months later, I left and went to work in Bond Street for a salon called Josie Powell. And I'd been there a while. And along came this unknown gentleman called Vidal Sassoon that was going to buy it. And he said to everyone, he spoke to everybody and it was very nice. And he said, well, I'd like you all to stay. Jose is moving on. He's going to South Africa. Just let me know in your own time if you want to stay or you don't. Already got a salon on the other end of Bond Street. It's on the 3rd floor. And in the end, I was the only person that stayed.
How did your hairdressing change with the arrival of him? Were you already focusing on colour?
Not really, no, because I still hadn't come out of my apprenticeship officially. Because it was Bond Street, they were doing lots of starlets and stuff like that. So there was a lot of hairdressing, and people used to come in as well. People that lived around, they would come in and have their hair done for the evening, and rollers, some pin curls, and he was doing blunt Italian cutting. That was revolutionary as well. Some people are still doing this sort of thing. It changed when Vidal came along. He was the person, really, that made me think how I thought, because he didn't speak at you. He spoke to you. He wanted you to go on a journey with him. It wasn't all about what he was going to do. It was what we were going to do, which has always stayed with me.
And it must have been revolutionary back then if you've come from post-war school where women were semi-invisible to be on this journey which involves starlets. And
before Vidal appeared on the scene was the apprentices or assistants or whatever you want to call them were allowed to do colour, right? And I was quite amazed because the first time they said to me, oh, you go into the basement, there was this big, scary looking bottle, right? And it had 0.88 ammonia in it. And then we got a bowl. You can only drop it in, put some peroxide and some Lux soap flakes. And it was stirred up. And then you got an orange stick and put cotton wool around it, and then you put it onto the partings. I think I'm a little bit scared of this. But I got through it, obviously. But from that moment with the ammonia, I thought, this is what I really am interested in, because I think this is not really what should be going on.
So how did it evolve?
Just step by step, really. There was a guy that was working for Vidal in the little salon in 108 Bond Street, and he did colour only. His name was Lawrence. And I decided that I was going to tag on to Lawrence rather than to tag on to one of the other guys that were doing. And it was mostly men. I suppose about 98% were male.
How did you cope in that environment? How did that inform your character?
Well, you fall in. I just went along. I was just one of them. So whatever they could do, I made sure I could do. So I got very, accepted, because I stayed and did all the model lights. I stayed and did whatever needed to be done after hours. And there was always a lot of stuff to do after hours, because everybody was trying to learn something. Vidal was trying to create, a whole atmosphere of people being involved and everybody helping everybody else, as opposed to the other way around, where people were just only interested in their self and didn't share anything with anybody. They wouldn't tell you how they did it. So it was a really, whole different thing. So they accepted me as one of the boys. They went down the pub, I went down the pub. But then, when we got more girls, most of them didn't do that because they were interested in going out and finding a boyfriend.
Sharing, learning, growing, doing what other people can do, sort of informed the ethos of Sassoon's, right?
That is how I learned, and that's how I always carried on. And my mentor was, I need to make somebody better than I am, so they can make someone better than they are, and they can go on and we can grow and grow and grow. You got to nurture people. And really, hairdressing is all about people. You don't have anything if you haven't got the people. If you haven't got the people that want to be there, that want to do it, and that really into it, yeah, it'll work, but it won't work as well as if everybody is into what they're doing and everybody shares what they're doing and everybody's having a good time. Most of the people would be around, going out together, in groups and going to places, go to exhibitions, go to look. So it was really, they had their own culture in the end, which a lot of people found very different, because they wouldn't share their secret of how to do something with anybody, whether it was a haircut or how to put a... Vidal used to, at the beginning, he would use rollers and pin curls, and everybody used to have to make their own rollers for him. And they were made of cotton wool, and every morning the juniors used to be making cotton wool rollers like this.
I remember doing the foils in the 90s.
He'd make a pin curl, and only need 2 hairpins to keep the curl in. And of course, you had to pass as quick. He would go, and you have to go. And if you didn't pass, he was like, and if you got really angry, you've got your bowl of rollers, he'd go,
oh, Annie.
And so then everybody else ran around trying to make more rollers. Everybody helped. It didn't happen. But, it's all part of learning.
How did you redefine what it means to be a colourist, and how did you do it?
Experimenting, I suppose. Just working at it and experimenting. And I got into what they were using, L'Oreal, so obviously I got into that. Immediate Cream D, it was called. And it was really very good, very good. But then I obviously went looking at everybody, and I got into Wella.
Would you almost go, try something, and if it didn't work, keep trying it in various ways, and then go back to the product company and say, I've not got this? Was that how it worked?
Not really.
Did you have that clout, Annie? Could you do that?
No. You could say, they think about it, but basically they had their own team of researchers that did stuff, and you talk to them and say, and then you would find that they had thought about it, and you might find you would get it, but they wouldn't say that's how it happened.
They wouldn't give you. They wouldn't give you the
No,
credit.
no.
And I guess how, in terms of experimentation, how and when did you start using colour playfully?
It's all based on the haircuts, basically, because Vidal, it was all about perimeter. It was all the perimeter and strong, strong lines. And also it's quite mono, so very strong colours like very dark black or near black, dark browns and blondes. So it was all about the lines, which obviously made him famous. I used to do a lot of blondes. So I got very much into blonde. And, you know, darker is easier because you don't have to do so much to most people's hair. But lots of people want to be blonde that really shouldn't be blonde because they're so dark to start with. So you learn a lot. And then Roger Thompson came along and he started working with interiors, looser shapes and more interior shapes. And also in the middle of all this he came along with the Greek goddess. So that was a little bit of a sidestep for a while. Non-stop perming.
I bet those chemicals were strong in the... What era are we talking about now when
60s.
they started? 60s, where they're going more sort of interior.
60s, yeah. You got the bi-levels and stuff, which came with the Firefly, that was Christopher. And basically that was the first two-dimensional colours. And so then you were working with making the shape stronger. So you use certain colours to make it look lighter and to make it to come out. And then you go with the darker colours and the blue tones to make it recede in the places where it wanted to be receded. So you were using dark and light colours to emphasise the shape of the haircut.
And how long did it take you to section off that Firefly to get that colour? Because it's perfect.
Yeah. And then, of course, Daryl Benson came along with the beginning to the way that we know haircuts now. Cutting hair shorter to push out the longer hair. So that's where you've got the Botticelli, for instance, and that was utilising a perm as well. But all of the shapes that you see now with lots of short and long and whatever, it all really stems from that one guy. You then looked and you worked towards the shape, like this to be stronger, can you make this look a bit more bold, or can you make this go in a bit more?
I just visualise you in a room with all those men working out exactly where to place the colours to get that.
The major thing, I think, that changed hair colour in colour was crazy colour. Before crazy colour, there was no primary colours at all. And that was like a revolution.
Fab. When did they come around?
Renato came along with that, and that was in the early 70s.
What was your first crazy colour experimentation? Can you remember? Going back to 1972.
Well, the very first photographs were in black and white, obviously, because we only had black and white film. And the first colour photograph was called Urte, and it was a haircut that Christopher Booker did. And it was red, but it wasn't red because I'd coloured it red. It was red because you could then colour photographs by hand. But then the first real one that was colour was the Firefly.
And what an impressive image that
wasn't in colour, but I think most people will think of that as being the first one.
So then I guess the role of a colourist suddenly became in demand, was it?
When I first started, why nobody knew what to do or they didn't pass on their secrets or anything was because the average person would never say they'd coloured their hair. Right, so it would always be the actresses theatre people or the ladies of the night. But the average person would never, ever say they coloured. No, it's all natural. Of course I don't colour my hair. So you never got a recommendation from anybody, because nobody ever said you knew you existed. Because no one would say, I colour my hair. And so because, punk era and all the suddenly, and then people, they wanted to say, yeah, of course, I do it as well. I've done it a long time, but I never told anybody.
And that was all beginning around the 70s. There's sort of this awakening of colours amazing.
Yes, yeah, because fashion as well, and the punk, it was all a big,
But even when you were playing with very bold colours, there's still a beauty to it. There's still a beauty element.
Yes.
What's
Sometimes
your take on
people use colours, but they don't think why they're using them. And it's like, well, why did you put that colour there? There has to be a reason for it to do with the haircut and the person. Because it's not only the haircut, it's also the person. Some people can get away with absolutely anything because, they're larger than life. And some people want to be bright, but they haven't got the demeanour they're too much into themselves to have it. So you have to then give them colour that will go with their personality. You can't then just give them really out there, because then they won't like it.
But also I imagine that's why you brought in sort of putting areas of brighter colours that could be hidden or revealed. Yes. I always sort of cite you with that. Rapidly moving through the 70s to the 80s.
The product companies started making bolder colours and stronger colours. So you didn't have to go for your crazy colour, so you could still give people very strong colours without that.
Without having to pre-lighten first.
Yeah. I did a lot of work, obviously, with Tim in the 80s and 90s. He used to say his haircut was naked unless it had a colour on it. Although it was great, he said it just made it that bit different. And we just did a lot together. And if you probably look through the archives, you'll see quite a lot of photographs with Tim and I together with colour and stuff. And also, he liked blondes. And I think some people used to associate me with doing a lot of blonde hair.
He told me she's amazing at a blonde and a red and a black and a purple, but she might not like green. Was what he said.
So, but I've been very lucky, really, because I had people to make canvases for me, and very good canvases. And basically, it's all about people work, that Sassoon was all about. It's a journey, we're doing it together, and people working together, which was just revolutionary. It never happened before. Everybody kept their own secrets and didn't share anything. So it was, if you look through at how fashion changes and hair changes and the styles change, and it's always somehow progressing in another way. So I think in the end, the manufacturers sort of caught on to the fact that you can't just do normal things. You've got to have a range that's got a bit out there for different things. And then it just goes on, and then the products get better, and shampoos and conditioners became very important. Vidal brought out his own line, which was originally a 3-step line. As far as cleanse, condition, seal and protect is what he did, 3 steps. And that became quite strong in the UK as well as in the US. It was developed in the US.
And when did you turn to business as well? Like, what era did you... Because when I started, you were my big boss. You were the big boss, Annie.
It wasn't really that different because I'd always been good with people and always had people that I'm, in a way, managed. To be honest, the only reason that we were all successful and the salon was successful was the people. You can't do it without people. And unless you can give the people confidence, and unless you could say, come on, you can do it. yeah, come on, you can do it. Towards the end, when I was working on the floor, and even when I was in the office, I would be in staff training, because that's where that's your crux. You've got to get them coming through, and it's the people. No people, no good people, especially, I mean, people, you don't just need people, because if you didn't want to be there, it didn't work, because it wasn't easy. But if you could get someone that was a little nervous and not so sure, and you can coax them into it, and they end up blossoming into a big, beautiful bouquet.
I guess that is one of my questions, actually, how you sort of mentored and managed so many characters. And it was sort of, Sassoon's was always a big mix of characters. It was quite diverse, and there was quite a lot of creativity. There was quite a lot of personality.
Yeah, so quite explosive people as well. But you have to really, everybody has got something to offer, and they just need to be told and shown, look at that. That's really good, but if you just change it slightly, or just, try a little bit to do this, or no. But look, yeah, right. Oh, look, I can see it coming on. Yeah, it's getting better. Oh, fantastic. And then, oh, that's marvellous. Look, you've got it. Fantastic. But, you've got to want to do that for them as well, because they quite often don't know what they want to do and, how to do it. It's like anything, you have to have a leader or someone that's going to help, a little helper. I was always interested in bringing young people on. And one of the people that I really worked quite a bit with and mentored to a certain extent is Mark Hayes, because when he was in staff training, and I used to be doing staff training, he was really naughty. I quite like naughty people.
Mark Hayes being the global creative director of Sassoon.
Anyway, became a stylist and everything. And then they needed a new art director in Manchester. And so I'll talk to him. I had a little chat. I said, go on, Mark, go on, why not, And in the end, he said, oh, yeah, well, I said, we don't have to go forever, just go for a while. And actually did go. And I did some things with him in Manchester.
So that would have been late 80s, wouldn't it? That would have been the Manchester time.
Yeah, that was Manchester. Everybody used to go to the Hacienda.
You got the good days going to Manchester, Mr. Hayes.
Go to the Hacienda. Anyway, after that, he went to Australia with Vidal as well. He did the whole tour with Vidal in Australia. I worked very closely with him on shows and did colours for him. Some of the photographs in the foyer there, where's the colour thing, are models that I've done with Mark.
Feels as you walk through here a little bit of a homage to you as well, Annie.
You had different people going out doing the shows. I did quite a bit with Mark as well. It was good.
I remember the collections that were created, and how even when I was training at Sassoon's in the 90s, and I was in Manchester, and we'd come down from Manchester for the soirees, and also to see the salon launches, and you'd feel like you shouldn't really be there because you were 16 and all the big people from London were there. And I remember you'd make sure everybody always got to see the show, and just how at that time, pre-internet, you'd never kids up and down the country, we'd never seen anything like that,
But it was important that they saw it, people saw it, and also because, we ended up with salons in England, Germany and the States. At one point, the States was completely separated from the UK. So they had a different business and obviously creativity and everything else. It was about 81 before it got really amalgamated, for lack of a better word, because although people would go over there to work, the creativity in the collections didn't go that way. They didn't get transported and showed the Americans the new collections and stuff, and that was regularly done every time the collection came out, twice a year.
You used to do that globally as well, didn't you? You go to Asia with the collection, sort of show the world.
Like we used to go around every collection and show them how to do it physically, step by step, with the cut and the colour, and then see the whole thing in the end. It was always quite busy when we went. We didn't just go to have a jolly up, but we did have a jolly anyway. All hairdressers have a jolly at the end.
That's part of the joy of hairdressing, isn't it? But also the experimentation side, I think. That's sort of you taught people how to do it, and then people took it and made it and then came back to show you what they'd done, and that's how it moved it forward.
Was able to talk in a very open way. Whoever it is could talk to anybody, and obviously you're more relaxed if you're ever in certain environments rather than.
And do you have a highlight, a career highlight? Can you put it down to one? No, I can't. Do you have a moment that you just think?
Oh, we had a big show at the Albert Hall, which was a hairdresser at the Albert Hall, and the cutters were on stages doing stuff. And of course, as usual, I'm in the basement, right? Because tinters always got put in the basement.
Still do, Annie, still do.
Always got put in the basement. So I'm in the right in the basement of the Albert Hall with all the colour going on, and this one, it's all of us doing whatever we did. And then someone comes and said, Vidal wants you on stage. I said, I can't go. I'm right in the middle of doing this. And Vidal says, you've got to come now. I can't leave this, I'm saying. I can't leave this colour. I'm going, no, right. And of course, I had to go, right? So I am dragged on the stage practically saying, and they said, no, this is Annie. No. And he said, well, I have to tell you about Annie. She came with the building. She's my mascot. And I'm there thinking, I'm there in all my tinting gear, right? Looking absolutely lovely with my tinting apron on and everything. Everybody else is all dressed up.
On the stage of the Royal Albert Hall. I hear you've got some outfits. I hear you've got a fabulous wardrobe, Annie.
Probably that was the first time a tinter had ever been taken on stage. Fabulous. Which made me even more like that. I've got to get everybody on the stage.
Yeah, there's quite an interesting case at the minute, which is trying to get tinters credits in magazines, because often colourists aren't credited for looks and. But we need Annie on the.
Yeah, but we would get credited if it was in the mag. They would, because they would do the both. But that was just because we insisted on it. Yeah. Our PRs and stuff were trained that they have to do. They don't always want to do it, the people, but you have to be nice to them, and then.
Is that the secret to get your own way? Okay. Annie says I've got to be nice. And what would you say your biggest challenge has been, or have you had a low light?
Well, yeah, sometimes it's difficult. I mean, I was with Tim and a whole load of models, and we used to do this show in the south of France, and Henri Deveau, the guy's name that ran the show, was called, and it was right down on the edge of Spain, and it was always chaotic and manic, and people used to go from all the different European countries and different 2 or 3 teams from different places in the UK, and we were there. And then we had to get back, and we had top line models with us as well. And something happened, don't know. We got to the airport, it was closed. And they were going, we got the Paris shows, we got this and we got that. And all that time of year, it was all going mad. So I'm in charge of all these things. I'm thinking, okay, all right. I think, what have I got to do? I managed to get them on a train. halfway, right? And then all of us, right? But then, of course, I managed to get a hotel booked. But when it came to the rooms, we were a bit short of rooms, right? They all had to double up, and they're going, don't want to double. Well, you either sleep with, one of the other girls, or there's only X amount of rooms, right? Because everybody was trying to get out. All the other teams were trying to get, and I think we were the only one that managed to get on a train. You should ask Tim about this. So in the end, there was Tim, the makeup artist, and myself in the room that was left. We were on the station with these big trunks. I'm thinking, we're not going to get these trunks. We're not going to get to imagine trying to get people on seats on train. We're not going to get through. And it was carnet in those days. You had to do a carnet, a damn great carnet. Anyway, through customs, we ain't going to make this. So I thought, we're going to have to leave these. So I had to negotiate with somebody to hang on to the trunks in the station. Anyway, everybody got to out there. We got there in the end, a bit ragged-tagged, but they all managed to get to their runway shows in Paris, which is what they were all. That's why it was so urgent, because the top girls. That's what they were doing us a big favour coming to the end of France. It's doing the shit because we knew them quite well.
But that's quite one of the dramas, but one that you handled beautifully, impeccably.
Thanks, Tim.
I can imagine it would have been you who would have been doing the production on that. What would you say mattered the most in your career?
I wouldn't be here without people.
Can I ask you if there's anything that's inspiring you in the world of hair and colour at the minute?
I think it's very good that people are still trying to push boundaries and stuff. It's going to be difficult, economy-wise. But that's when people are at their best. So they always come out thinking of something. So I think it will all turn itself around. It just needs people. It's like anything. You've got to want to do it, else it doesn't happen. If you don't put it into it, you don't get out of it. But I'm sure it will, because there's a lot of good people around, and it's just finding a way to manoeuvre what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
In many ways, the world is upside down.
A question I've got here is it still possible to push boundaries?
I think so, because there's always something. There is. The only thing that really scares me now is AI, because I think it could be very dangerous. It could affect a lot of creative people. It has to be managed in a way very strongly, because I think it is such a strong, good thing, and all good things, especially when they're strong, have to have a good management and good structure. So I think it is possible, but I worry slightly that it won't take over from people, and people getting credits for it. People coming up with something and then they get the credit for it.
It's quite undemocratic, isn't it? I guess, with people borrowing things and bringing things forward, and there's a democracy in it. Like I listened to an interview with you where you were talking about highlights. And you said, oh, no, I didn't come up with that. That was somebody else. That was Daniel Galvin. And it's like, that's the exchange, that as humans you try and support each other. And I guess the issue with AI is with computer and data, we're so far removed from the operating systems that, yeah.
But I don't know. That's the only thing I think that. But it may not. But I think we just have to be very conscious and aware.
Yeah. Somebody said to me the other week, which I'm sort of living by this week, is that when you're good at your craft, it will prevail.
Yes.
I'm hoping that will
see
us through.
Yeah.
In the industry, maybe.
But do they see it as a craft?
Maybe not anymore. I don't know.
on the law of averages, most people want to look their best, even if they don't behave their best. They want to be presented in a good light. So I think that will help, because it's human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, here's hoping. And what advice would you have for anybody who, A, was starting out, and B, wants a career like yours? What would your advice be?
Well, if you don't put in, you don't get out.
Good. You heard that from us.
That's true with everything.
You got to do the time and the energy and the research. Is that how you'd break it down for hairdressers, or?
Yeah, with anything really. Yeah. You've got to give of yourself. And the most difficult thing to do for anybody is to give of yourself. And you've got to give that to the people that you're trying to mentor, who you're trying to bring on. Otherwise they won't, you've got to give it, you've got to do it. And that is important. And people know when you're trying to help them. And they try even harder, But, if people get ignored, it doesn't matter what it is, or where you are, people do not like to be ignored and just, swept away. It's because it's human nature, isn't it?
My closing question is, what did hair give you?
What did it give me?
And what did it take away?
It never took anything away.
Hey.
It always gave me everything. Without hair, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Where do you think you'd be? You would. You would. Whatever you did, you'd do well, Annie.
I don't know what I would be doing, but it was my world, obviously. Everything that I own and do, it's down to it in some way or another.
So it's given you the life you've got now, an amazing life, would you say?
Yeah, I think I've been very lucky. But then in life, you do have to have a certain amount of luck. But if you don't put in, you don't get out. But also, everyone needs a little bit of luck. And also, you need to be in the right place at the right time. And I happen to be in the right place at the right time. In the right era.
Through many eras, Annie. Through many eras. Oh, well, thank you ever so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've really appreciated that you've spent this time with me.
Well, it's been my pleasure to talk to you.